Now, it's the gas and energy crisis that has landed right on the doorstep of the new Labor government. As headlines this week warned, business in Australia is heading towards a gas apocalypse. It sounds like a bit of a beat up, but it's far from it. You just have to have a look at this graph, at the difference in electricity costs from this year to last year already. Now, there are a multitude of complex reasons for this, but very few short-term solutions, which is why the government is struggling. Today, a superb summary of the real issues and what can be done in the short, medium and long term by government has been published in The Spectator magazine. Its author is economist Alan Moran, and he joins us now from Melbourne. Alan, thank you very much for your time and well done on this. For years now, we've been sold a bit of a fantasy, simply a dud, I guess, that, don't worry, we can shut down coal and gas power plants and renewables will just get us through, they'll replace it all. We're witnessing the reality of going down that path prematurely, aren't we?
We sure are. Basically, coal is responsible for 60 to 70% of our electricity. And even though we've been moving faster in terms of subsidising renewables to take over coal than almost any other country, probably than any other country in the world, that's still the case. Renewables are always said to be cheap, and they're always said to be, we can make them reliable. Well, they're not reliable and they're not cheap. Coal is cheap, but what we've been doing for many, many years now, and it's certainly it's not Labor, just Labor, it's Liberals as well. Essentially, we've been preventing gas and coal being developed through various regulations. So we're finding we've got stacks of gas in Australia, but the state governments won't allow exploration for it. So that basically and the gas we've got is committed mainly for overseas sales. You can't change that, but that has immense ramifications on future development plans. So basically, we're now stuck with the policies that have been put in place for so many years, where we're short of gas and we're short of coal. Essentially, developing new coal mines it has become more and more difficult. So we've got planned coal mines in one case in New South Wales, another in Victoria, which basically have not got access to coal, or the coal that they've got is being depleted and is more difficult to get. But governments haven't allowed new coal to be developed, so it's not been developed. So now we're facing a crisis with this. We've closed down some power stations, I think, as you mentioned earlier, in South Australia and in Victoria. We've got others starting to close as a result of the pressures they face through subsidised renewables on their profitability. And then, we hit a crisis like this and suddenly we can't cope. And as you showed in those in that data there, we've seen the general price, the underlying price that for the spot price for electricity go from $50 or $60 a megawatt hour to $100 last year, and now $300, $400, $500 at the present juncture. And it's a brave man who'll say, oh, this is all going to finish pretty soon.
No, not a chance. The Australian Financial Review, Alan, usually big fans of renewables, editorialised yesterday, blew me away, that we have been too quick to dump our baseload energy sources, and this has caused energy prices to rise 3- or 4-fold in just a single year. How spot on were they?
Oh, dead spot on. I wish they would have been saying that for the last 5 years. They've been really egging on renewables and telling we've got to get to this, what they call transition to renewables. We've got to get rid of coal, we've got to get rid of gas. And suddenly they're editorialising, blaming others for not seeing through this, when they themselves have been propagandising for it for so many years now.
But to your article, Alan, I want to find time to get to this. As you wrote in The Spectator, Australia's high prices are partly due to government policies forcing high-cost, low-reliability renewables into the supply, causing closures of coal plants. With a new Labor government at the helm, what should be their first steps to fix this issue, or can they?
Well, they certainly can't fix it short term. Basically, we're in a pickle now, and we're going to be staying in that pickle until we can do something longer term. Essentially, the steps they've got to take, they've got to stop subsidising renewables. We spend $7 billion every year on measures which are subsidising renewable energy.
Massive.
In other words, and some of it is through government expenditure itself, some of it through regulations which force the consumers to pay more for their electricity. But in the process, we get rid of the reliable plants and we replace it by unreliable plants. So the first thing is we got to stop all subsidies straight away. The second is basically we've got to prevent those regulations which are stopping new developments of coal and of gas.
Yes.
And this is something that somehow or other the federal government has got to lean on the states in terms of telling them that you simply can't say we want all this reliable energy, both coal and gas, but we're not going to allow anybody to look for the supplies. It just doesn't make any sense. And
crazy.
This is basically what we've been doing in Australia, throughout the eastern states of Australia and South Australia for the past 5 or 8 or 10 years even.
Yep.
And basically we've got to find these new supplies. They're there in an absolute abundance, but we haven't been permitted to do it. The one nation in the world which has done quite well in this crisis is the United States. Their electricity prices and their gas prices are half those of Europe and of Australia. And that's because under the Trump administration, they did a lot of deregulation.
Yes.
They didn't follow that rabbit down the renewables hole as far as anybody else did. And even though Biden is trying to scrap all those Trump regulations, the momentum is in there and they have got low prices. That should be a lesson for everybody, what we do.
Yeah, the lesson is go to America, but that's another story.